Good morning, everybody. I am talking to you today from the North Pole, where we vacation in the wintertime. It's like 30 degrees here in beautiful downtown New Jersey. And we're back again for another installment of TechReact and Technology in the Enterprise IT. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Steve, did you say good morning?
I did say good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. So Steve brought this article to our attention today after going to beautiful downtown Orlando and talking to the people that the rest of us are not allowed to talk to, the Gartner folks. And it's a great article about the top 2015 trends in enterprise IT. Is that right, Steve?
That is right.
So why don't we count them down with, should we do 10 to 1 or should we do 1 to 10? What do you think?
Let's start backwards. Let's go 10 to 1.
And the top reasons why enterprise IT will be the cure of all problems in 2015 are, Dave, start.
The top reason is cloud computing everywhere.
Oh my God!
Cloud computing.
Didn't we just say we're going to go backwards? We just said we're going to go backwards.
I am going backwards. I'm dyslexic. No, the top going to number 10 would be security.
Security.
Please take that guy out of the room.
Oh my God.
Different kind of security.
Chris, I apologize.
There's going to be more attention to it, right?
So,
Well, if you listen to the Gartner pundits, right? So remember, I have come back from a solid week of brainwashing at the Gartner conference, on top of being in the mouse's house. The trend of security is application protection this year, and it's going away from. It's not discounting all of the other, traditional IPS layered network security, but it's going to call it self-defending applications, right? Where applications are going to have security awareness built in, right? And driving the ability for these apps to defend themselves. Because the concept is the people are after the data in applications, right? And the only way to really defend them is to make these applications more secure themselves and to make them more aware of how to block illicit transactions.
So the application is going to learn like the normal patterns of usage, and then when somebody does something out of the ordinary, it will flag that as unusual. You don't ordinarily download 10 gigabytes of data. Your sales are down this quarter, and suddenly you're downloading the customer list, kind of thing.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're talking about.
So, how old are your kids, Steve?
My kids are 9.
Maybe we should get them to be security folks, because it sounds like somebody's trying to build some job security.
Yes. There's going to be some interesting work coming out of that.
Well, with the accelerating pace of security issues, and breaches and everything, it's going from the breach of the month to the breach of the week to the breach of the day, Yeah.
So I think it's I think it's just a play to the fact that, everybody realizes the old IDS, IPS, firewall is just not, it's not security anymore. You got to get closer and closer to the data, right, that you're protecting.
So you're better off protecting the data, or you're better off having each application have its own unique security stack that's protecting itself?
I think that's a good question, David. I don't know if it's as much its own, each application having its own security stack, but I think it's definitely making those applications aware, right, in combination with, like Chris said, some kind of BI or analytics where they recognize unusual behaviors.
There's a bunch of stuff going on, but one of the things is that what you want is security in depth, right? You can't run with just one layer of security.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be that a firewall was okay, but if a virus gets inside your firewall, then your firewall's not helping. So now it's to the point where, okay, let's take a look at how we can make more things secure so that even though you get through this layer of the onion, there's still 7 more layers of the onion to get through before you can get to anything.
Yeah.
So the concept is just making it, when you build a safe, a physical safe that you put something in, safes are rated by time, the amount of time it takes somebody to get into it. And that's the beginning of the way thinking for security now in IT is it going to be more costly for the person who's trying to get it, illicitly trying to get to your data, than the return he's going to get out of it.
Yep.
So basically what we're saying here is that we're going to build a safe and then put a whole bunch of little safes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
So you mean like a safe inside a bank?
Yeah, you're going to lock the door, even though the safe, has a door lock on it as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's gonna know it is only open between 8 and 5.
There you go.
All right. Should we go to the next one?
Dave?
Next one on the list, web scale IT. Do any of us know what this is?
This is one of those famous generic things, but basically this is taking the concept of all these web scale providers like Facebook and Netflix and bringing their technologies into the enterprise.
What's a web scale? Steve, what's a web scale?
So, web scale just kind of refers to these applications in companies like Facebook, right, Google, right, that have these massive computing environments and application environments that scale up to the hundreds and thousands of millions of users, right?
Oh, I see.
That can scale up and scale back down depending on, right?
Well, if you don't look at something that's that big, are they making advances in load balancing at this point, Steve?
And there are some advances in load balancing, but not. I mean, it's not a revolutionary area anymore, right?
Is it still, virtual IPs and clustering at this point?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the advances in that kind of technology are happening in the cloud with things like Amazon's, Route 56 and some of these other things.
Yeah, they're elastic IPs.
Yeah, but I think this really boils down to, unless enterprises are rewriting applications or throwing out their old and building new stacks of applications and infrastructure, this is to me a long time horizon kind of
Got it.
strategy.
So how do you guys think that ties into the idea of cloud
It doesn't.
and big data?
It doesn't.
I think it's definitely enabled by cloud, and I think it's definitely taking the concepts of big data and getting them in applications. I mean, if you listen to what they say, right? I mean, if you make the analogies to Facebook, they're taking all of their data and they're targeting advertising, or they're changing your emotions, whatever you want to believe this week, right? And how do you take those same concepts and build them into your enterprise's fabric? But I think these are very aspirational.
Interesting.
And I think that number 8 ties into this the same way, because 8 is software-defined applications and architecture. And all the saying there is, you can't hard code where you are. So if you're in Amazon today, you need to be flexible to be able to say, okay, we can go to Azure or HP or Rackspace or something else tomorrow.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much in this area, but I thought that by now there would be some aggregator where you pay somebody and they find the best cloud depending on your criteria. And I thought there'd be a lot more heavy-duty people in that business, but I don't see anybody.
There's services out there that can do that for
Yeah, no,
a
I
degree,
definitely.
but they're not enterprise grade. They're just it's more consumer grade in small business, like where you can link together all your accounts and move stuff around from one to the other, but it just doesn't make sense.
No, but at the enterprise level, what I was thinking about, David, is if David company would say to banks, or actually that's the back one, but it would say to manufacturing, we handle your cloud, and we go to this commoditized players out there, and we handle the load balancing between them, the speed between them, the pricing between them. We get you the best possible price. That's what I mean.
Yeah, kind of cloud brokering.
Yeah.
I think that's coming, but it's going to take a while.
So that's like, you're talking about the telco market in the late 90s.
Correct.
Basically.
Yeah.
That's the same concept, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's getting there.
like the TEMS, right? That was the telephone expense management.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's coming, but I think it's going to be more software defined, not to use the term of the bullet, but yeah, I think it will be, because it's going to be some sort of software solution that's cloud-based that you subscribe to, and then there's people on the back end that keep it all managed for you, because it could be very dangerous.
I hear there's a Vietnamese company that's doing some really good work in telephone expense management.
Was that the BPO stamp licking thing we were talking about?
Exactly.
There you go. All right. How about number 7, cloud and client computing?
Hold on. You don't get to read them.
All right, David.
All right, number 7, cloud and client computing. What do we think of this one?
All right. So this was kind of Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, gave one of the keynotes, and he really
was it about how he hates women? Was that the
no,
one?
and it wasn't about how little he was going to pay employees, but it was about the transparency of experience between all of the different devices that you might use, right? So it's kind of that whole thought process of, I'm working on my Surface, then I'm going to go pick up my iPad and continue working with the same applications, the same look and feel, right? Then I'm going to go to my laptop or desktop or Android, whatever it may be, my Chromebook, right? But it's the idea that all of these apps are going to have more and more of their awareness or their characteristics in the cloud, right? And you're going to have this seamless experience across devices.
Yeah, so I've been saying this for years, where the whole idea of the operating system is really irrelevant for the most part. It's all about the applications and having that experience follow you from whatever whatever technology you're using to interact with it. It's all about the app.
Yeah, I think they're finally figuring that out.
So I don't understand this one.
That's because you're like died in the Apple model.
Seriously?
So if you think about it, I'll put it in terms of like in terms of what Satya was talking about, which was really like, think Office 365.
Of course he said that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all they got, right? That's what they got.
I believe it.
Right. So you got Office 365 and whatever, your OneDrive, and you're working on your laptop at work, and then you go home, you pick up your iPad Air 2, right? You got Office 365 on that. You still got all your same look and feel and whatever it may be, right? You go back to your office and you get on your desktop. That's the idea.
Oh, you mean what Apple just came out with? Oh, I get
exactly.
it.
Everybody's doing it. It's all it's all the same.
Yes.
Yeah, all the same.
David,
I think it's neat stuff. I mean, I know that Office 365 for me works across multiple platforms, and it works well.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's expensive. Like, if you look at it into there's two issues that I have. I'll just digress for 1 second. One, it's expensive. I think it should be like 1/10 of what it is. And number two is the pipe that you need to go back to Azure to do your mail is huge.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that's the trick of it too is authentication, right? So if you're using enterprise apps, you got to have some authentication that works across all these systems, right? And that's really that's where your identity is, and that's probably the big challenge.
Yep.
It is. But there are apps out there that are crossing this chasm pretty well. Salesforce is finally getting there with Salesforce One, where you can use it on multiple platforms, and it's not as usable across all, but getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And then our storage solutions like Dropbox and other cloud solutions are actually not bad.
So number 6 is Chris's favorite.
Oh, that's my favorite. Now go ahead, Chris. You want to read this one?
Chris?
He's frozen.
He's
all
frozen.
right. I I guess
we told him not to go outside.
he's probably sealing up boxes right now.
Yeah.
He's got the tape machine he's reloading.
He may have sealed himself in a box.
That's a challenge. So smart machines. Sorry, Chris.
That's not fair because that's his favorite. Just give him the link again. Oh, God. Okay, let's skip 6. We'll come back to 6.
All right, so we'll go to 5 and we'll come back to 6?
I guess. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Google.
All right, context-rich systems. So knowing user location, their history, preferences, social media, connections, all that other stuff that goes to it. It sounds like a really fancy way of saying personalization, but...
yes, exactly.
Privacy. So,
privacy, what's that?
Yeah, so privacy. So here's the issue that I have with this one. In order to make this work, it has to be a mobile device.
Yeah, you have to be in a mobile-first world.
Right. And the secondary issue that I have is that if it's a mobile device, then your battery's going to die in about 3 minutes.
Well, yeah, but they're getting better, right? This is one of those things where build it, the technology will evolve, and it won't make a difference at some point in the future. For instance, if you take like Apple iBeams, which I think is a really good example of this technology, do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
So with iBeams, you need things like Bluetooth and NFC on your device, which are battery hogs, right?
Right.
But all it's really capable of doing is pinging the device wherever it might be in that retail environment, and just basically give you geolocation services back. If you have the app opened or the app that's connected to the iBeam on it, then you can get some personalization on top of it.
Yeah.
But what if you've got a real phone?
If you have a real phone, you have to have an application that can work with the iBeams, and you have to have your NFC and Bluetooth both enabled on it, and it's fun watching your battery be dead by 11 a.m.
Right, so I don't think
You got that with Google Wallet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's a mobile phone issue. I just think that all the applets that have to be running on your phone, I don't think it matters what kind of phone you have.
Yeah. I think that to David's original point, I think the biggest point or the biggest problem with this one in the enterprise is privacy, right? Do you really want your employer knowing all your social connections? Do you want them tracking, having applications that are going to adjust based on where you are? I see this in the consumer world. I have a hard time applying it, aside from if you walk into a retail space as a consumer, right, where it applies to an enterprise where they may want to adopt those kind of things to make a shopping experience better. I just don't see the general enterprise.
Well,
actually, I see it in a completely different direction. I see enterprises having problems with abusive management, with the manager saying, I need to see all your stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust you, Mr. Employee, and then that's creating tremendous legal and HR issues.
Yeah, see, I agree with Chris. This is going to be battled out in the courts. Like, right now the enterprise is on the winning side of this one, because when you set up an Exchange server on your device, you're clicking through an agreement basically stating that your company can basically reboot your device, do all sorts of stuff to it and control it, and get access to anything that's on there.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is by installing all these apps and clicking off your rights for personalization or location services that the retailers and other businesses that are giving you these free apps to use want to get information about you. They're getting all this information as well. Does the enterprise have the rights to that stuff?
Yeah.
If they don't have the rights to it, there's a whole market to basically protect your own stuff from what your business could see, and you end up with two completely segmented environments running on your device.
I disagree. I disagree because I think you're looking at a model of this today. I think within the next 18 months, you're going to see that phones and smart devices are not going to be owned by the enterprise.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's good, but right now my phone's not owned by the enterprise. I'm in a BYOD environment with phones at least.
Yeah. We deploy an application on mobile that says you can add this to your phone if not, if you want to, and if you do, we can do two things. We can either create an encrypted environment where our stuff is, or we can encrypt your entire phone and make it remote wipeable. And some of our employees are opting in and some aren't, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing. I had an option to basically either connect to Exchange, or they were going to let me basically IMAP out my mail and just access it that way.
I think that the model that are changing are the way that you buy your phones. They are going to change this whole thing. I think the $200 phone in Apple's point of view, I think that's going to go away. And even what you said before we started the show about the SIM card, if you have a unit that can go onto any device, right? And then if you have a smartphone or device that can go onto any carrier at any time, right? Then you're not going to be able to tie people to a 24-month contract. And if you look at what T-Mobile has done, they're making you buy your phone, right? Once the model changes and people will buy their phones outright, I think that you will not have the enterprise tagging along. I think it's going to, like the way you bring your pencil to work, it's going to be using your phone to work.
David steals his pencils from work.
I don't write.
We know this. We know
Not
this.
writing anything. No trace.
They only let me use crayons at work.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be that the technology is getting clever enough, Marco, but there's two things that are happening. Technology is still evolving, and it's never going to stop. And so somebody's always going to come out with something really cool and slick next year that you're going to want to use. And the backward compatibility is going to be limited. And that's one of the issues, right? Is God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and on the seventh day He rested. Sure, seem to do it version 2 and make it backward compatible. That's a challenge.
So I don't think it's a technology issue. Sorry, one more point. I think it's going to become a privacy issue, because as soon as you have the work smartphone, everybody your employer knows where you are and what you're doing. And the first time that somebody's going to come out with that, because if you think that your employer doesn't know what you're doing right now, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Okay? Because right now the employer is reading all your emails, they're reading where you are and everything you're doing on that phone. And you're going to have a couple of issues. Companies will not want to pay for you streaming your Pandora. And people are going to know where you are. And the first time that somebody breaks that, you're going to be in trouble.
I don't agree, because it used to matter that you stream Pandora, right? And I was in offices where we had to go around and tell everybody, turn off your music because we're trying to have a video conference, all right? And the bandwidth mattered. But bandwidth is so cheap anymore, it doesn't matter. I mean, I got Time Warner offering me a 300 meg for nothing, for free. Just let us come in and install it.
I'm not looking at it that way. I'm looking at not the company that you work for. I'm looking at some bank with 270,000 people.
Yeah. I still don't think that the bandwidth for Pandora is going to matter.
No, not the bandwidth. It's not a bandwidth issue.
No.
It's going to be a why are you doing this when you should be working issue.
Right. Yeah. It's a
time management issue, and companies feel like they're getting their money out of you, basically.
Yeah. All right. Should we go back to 6 now that Chris is back?
Yeah, Chris, we waited for you on 6.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
Well, Dave didn't want to wait for you. He wanted to steal it.
I thought your tape machine broke and you had a box issue. So
The real.
That's true.
So I think that this has got your name all over it.
So what is it, David?
Smart
machines.
Smart machines. Awesome.
A little music for that one. Oh, go ahead.
So there's a video on YouTube right now. You can search for it on YouTube about the test drive of the autopilot Tesla. So Tesla is testing their car that you don't need to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Read speed limit signs and all that kind of junk. I don't see any reason for us to need truck drivers 10 years from today for anything. I mean, the only thing is UPS packages and stuff, right? And I could see 10 years from now where you get a text from UPS that says the truck's waiting outside with your package. Would you please go and get it? And oh, by the way, if you want it delivered to your door instead of the curb, it's going to cost you more because then a person has to do that, or they got to get a robot or something. But so
get a cannon, get like a cannon in the back of the truck.
I mean,
it's your cannon.
All right, stop it. I was listening to one of the board members actually at my company talk a couple of weeks ago, and he said, my grandkid who's 2 years old today will never learn to drive. And we'll sit down and talk about how it used to be that we drove ourselves everywhere, and we had to figure out how to turn and not die.
Yeah.
And stuff, and so the one thing I think that is revelatory to everybody is, will it take 10 years or 15 years before you have to prove a need to get a driver's license to be allowed to drive a car on a public road?
Mm.
Because the machines are going to be so much safer.
Yeah.
So I think it's an extreme. I think it's important, but still an extreme. I think that if you look at things today, because we're doing this today, right? I have warehouses that we store equipment in that don't have any lights.
Yeah.
Right.
Completely robotic.
Right, completely robotic. And by the way, since you're going to Denmark, Europe is 10 times ahead of us on this.
Yeah.
Right? There's an HR issue that they're trying to fix. So, let's not go right away to cars, but I knew that that's your spot, Chris. But if you look at things that are not going to harm anybody if they stray, like in this example with the trucks and mining, right? We can do that today, right? I think cars are going to be more difficult, but certainly if you go trains, planes, those are things that could just be done automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, most planes today are not landed by a person. The insurance won't let you.
Yeah.
Right, but there's still issues with these systems working. Maybe if there's something like a solar flare or something that could potentially affect the navigation system while it's landing.
Yeah.
You got to have someone there to be able to grab the wheel if there's an issue.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I'm sure there'll be some safety person there, but I think that's going to be changing. I don't know what we're going to do with all these people, but
Yeah. All right. Should we go to 4?
Yeah.
Now that we're in the top 5?
Did we hit 5? Oh yeah, number 4. Advanced, pervasive, and invisible analytics. See, to me, this just sounds like the stuff we've been talking about.
No,
It is.
invisible.
It's all
You guys are wrong. You guys are wrong. This is great.
I knew you'd like this one, Mark. I was teaming up with you.
I would wait to sell somebody invisible analytics.
That's a tagline you need to take away. Invisible analytics.
Right.
The emperor has no clothes.
It's invisible. What? You can't see it? Here's your bill.
So there's a point where this crosses the line, and to give you an example, right? I have 2 cars. I'm moving to San Francisco. We've decided we only need one, so I'm going to sell one. So I did a blue book check on one of my cars.
Mm-hmm.
I got an email from the dealer that sold me the car saying they were buying these cars.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did a blue book value check, didn't log in, nothing, and I got an email from the guy that sold me the car.
Yeah. And that's exactly what this is talking
That's
about.
just coincidence.
Heavy duty analytics. I hadn't heard. I need to go back and look, but I can guarantee you I haven't gotten an email from them in at least 6 months.
Yeah.
But by the way, this system has got to be pretty expensive because I'm only getting that from high-end places.
Yeah.
You know, for
Over a
example,
car, yeah.
yeah. So I was doing some work for, still doing some work for a company called Flight Safety, which does training for people that have jets.
Yep.
And so, doing some research and doing some proposals, I went to site, stealing pictures, or sorry, I was being highly influenced by pictures and some text. And my phone just started ringing if I wanted to buy a private plane.
Yeah.
So what'd you get?
I got a G4.
I figured that.
Of course, of course.
Of course.
The analytics are out there today. Stuff's going on in social media that, the fact that you like this and you like that, and you've got 3 friends that like similar things and all, that's getting you bucketed.
Yeah.
And everything. And when people freak out over the granularity of it, the fact that I got an email from my car dealer because I was looking at the blue book price of my car, that's kind of interesting. I think overall it's good, and people freak because they're afraid that you're going to be able to figure out exactly who they are. And while the algorithms and all that kind of stuff there are very few people who have access to the kind of data that they can say, this is Chris.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was probably one of 1,000 people or 10,000 people who got that email, but it still feels freaky.
Yeah.
So,
I
it is
think
Minority Report kind of advertising.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say then the problem is it's expensive now, right? But it'll get less and less expensive over time for people to get access to that data.
Moore's Law.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, we only have a few left, so why don't we jump on to the next one? This is another Chris one. I hate to say it. It's right up his alley. 3D printing. They say it's been around since '84, but now it's more available.
$300.
I think it's kind of interesting because what happens if a machine in your office breaks? Do you replace it?
Yeah.
Or do you repair it?
Depends how much the machine costs, right?
The interesting thing about 3D printing is that if the gear broke, the cog or whatever, you could take it apart and print a new one and put it back in there.
Right.
And that's wonderful. But who the hell is going to spend the time taking stuff apart?
Mm-hmm. We don't even know how to drive cars anymore. How are you gonna repair something?
Exactly. This is a point for manufacturing, right? Where if you need to order a part, you're making smart machines for manufacturing, and they print themselves apart when something's breaking, or better yet, when something's about to fail, you have a part of the machinery that starts generating the new parts that it needs for you.
I think you look at this too myopically.
Yeah.
Did you see the printing of the car?
I did see that.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a car out there that was the 3D printer. It built a car.
Yeah, some university did it, didn't they? They printed an entire car.
Now it only goes I think it only goes like 8 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's not very good. And it's all rough edges. It's not very pretty looking.
Right, but we're talking about 2014.
Yeah.
Right? And have you guys seen the 3D printing of the house?
No.
That's a great one. This machine comes in, 3D prints your house.
Yeah, I heard that could be done, but I mean,
they print with cement. Yeah.
It's an evolving technology that's
with plumbing.
Yeah.
It will 3D print your plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
It's crazy stuff.
So it's definitely going to change the way we think about things.
So my point is, I don't think it's redoing the part, but when you look at bigger, possibilities.
Yeah. So what about the next one?
This is one of my favorites.
Go for it.
Can I still read it? So, Internet of Things, IoT, right? The whole idea that everything that's out there, exactly, everything out there is connected, right?
Yeah.
From smart watches to smart sneakers to hats to sunglasses to glass to cars, that everything has some sort of an IP address and has the ability to communicate with each other or back with the network.
So there was an idea that they talked about here where I think it was GE is experimenting with a concept of you buy, say, for instance, a jet engine, and they sell you one jet engine. That's all they're ever going to sell you, right? Because it's going to be completely instrumented, and you'll never buy a completely new jet engine, but it'll, all the parts will tell you when to replace them, right, and when it's time to overhaul it or whatever. So they have to make all of their money theoretically on the services around that jet engine going forward, as opposed to 3 or 4 or 10 years from now selling you another jet engine.
See, I recently wrote a blog post about this for Push Technology, and I just tried to pick something really wild that people wouldn't think about for IoT. So I wrote about smart garbage cans. The whole idea of the dumpster in a business park or whatever being able to tell you when it's full and knowing when it needs to be dumped to offer better logistics, and basically you don't pick up an empty dumpster. It's a waste of energy.
I know a company doing that.
Yeah, it's a silly
Actually,
thing.
I do. They might be based here in Houston.
They must have read his blog post and opened up a company.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm always ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So
Make money right now.
Chris, here's one for you.
Woman had a car wreck this week. She ran off the road somewhere in Southern California, I think it was, and they couldn't find her, and the policeman hacked her Find My iPhone and used that to find the tablet that she had in her car. And they found her, and she was, injured and all, and they saved her life because she was off in a ravine someplace and they couldn't find her.
How long did that take? Because the FBI knew where she was like 10 hours before.
Yeah, it was like 15 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
But so there's two sides to that story. Wonderful, the Internet of Things helped save her life.
Yeah.
Terrible, the cop picked the birth date of her kid or something like that as the password on her phone. So the Internet of Things, has two edges to that sword, and the other edge is, what do you do when somebody hacks your refrigerator? And then turns it off when you're away for a long weekend, and you come home and you've got a bunch of rotten stuff, and your house stinks.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it too, Chris. Because if you're talking about privacy, right? Then you're walking down the street in your smart sneakers, and now you get an email from your chiropractor that says, you're putting more pressure on one than the other. Like, where did that come from? You're talking about the KBB for.
Right.
I think the adoption of Internet of Things is going to be a little bit long.
I think the word Internet of Things within the next 2 or 3 years is not going to be a word anymore.
I hope so, but I really hate
it's going to be gone. It's just it bugs me. I mean, people are using it, and it does make a point, but I think it's really an irrelevant term because all the other stuff on this list helps define what this actually is.
Yeah, that's very true. I was gonna say that as well. This thing is unachievable without everything else that's like below it on the list, right?
Exactly, and they tell most people about Internet of Things, they don't get it. I mean, it's just something to talk about. That's all. So move on to number 1 from this list.
And the number 1 reason why you should be in corporate IT next in 2015 is
computing everywhere, which is basically the culmination of this entire list again.
Yes.
Which is awesome. I just love the way this is put together. But anyways, so essentially the whole idea that you've got access to computers everywhere, screens, IoT, connected devices, your smart sneakers, your chiropractor, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just it all leads to it.
So the 3D printed smart truck delivers your context-rich systems via the cloud.
Yeah.
To the loading dock that has the Internet of Things in the forklift.
What are those things called?
That was good.
When you write those books, like when you have to fill the blanket.
The Mad Lib.
Yeah.
This is like doing a Mad Lib. Absolutely.
I actually have the news of the week though. It's a little bit legal. So Activision is getting sued.
Oh, they're still around?
They're huge. They're huge in games. Activision Yeah, Activision does Call of Duty.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize
I
that.
only remember him from Pitfall. That dates
That's
me.
right. So that's all I had. Oh, thought that was gone.
Oh, good. It's good to see that our audience knows that we're just keeping up with the time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm super relevant these days. Anyways, go ahead.
So, Activision just hired a new corporate lawyer because they're getting sued.
Mm-hmm.
And for you people in the Northeast, that corporate lawyer is Rudy Giuliani.
Uh-huh.
That's not even the better part.
Wait, he's a lawyer?
Well, he was always a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I didn't know he was practicing. I think he's like 900 years old, too. But his first case, you ready? Emmanuel Noriega suing Activision.
Oh, yeah, I know this guy.
Oh, man.
Because they included him in Call of Duty without telling him.
So the Panamanian dictator drug dealer.
Well, allegedly.
Is he still in prison?
Allegedly prison. You and I call it a palace. So, my question is, when he gets his day in court, are they going to arrest him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I wanted to thank everybody for being on this week's podcast. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, you can see us on Google Hangout. If you're watching us on Google Hangout, guess what? You can listen to us on Blog Talk Radio.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. Now, iTunes and Stitch and get onto the Apple TV.
300 or 400 other places. Shortly.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I am Marco Junta. You can find me at marcojunta.com. You are?
Stephen Webster at Move2 the Cloud.
And David Levin, you can get me at DS Levin on the webs.
Chris Keefe, CKIEFF, on the interwebs.
And soon to be of the West Coast, Chris Keefe.
On the West Coast. Yes, I'm a consumer of cardboard today.
Steve, great job.
Thanks.
I'll talk to everybody next week. Thank you.